directors and executives were dismissed. Okay, now there was no strong political structure. So there was no political structure now, and the military director got power. So now the military director, one of the military directors, so this director and they kept on fighting, and later on it was dismissed. And what happened, the new political, there was no such a good strong political structure, and that is the reason why the military power, the military director got a power and paved the way for the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte. Okay, and the ideas of freedom, equality, and fraternity remain inspiring ideals that motivated political movement for France and the rest of the Europe. So, but the ideas of, so due to that, only the Napoleon Bonaparte, it paved the way for the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte. But the ideas of freedom, equality, and fraternity remain inspiring, and also, and the ideas, these ideas were always motivating the political movement for France and the rest of the Europe. So now we move on to the role of women in revolution. So the women played a most significant role during the time of French Revolution. So the most of the women belonging to the third state worked for their living. Okay, so the women belonging to the first and the second state, they were the wealthier class people, they had a lot of money. So the women belonging to those class people, they didn't have to work. But the third class people, that is the third state people, the women of third state people suffered a lot during the French Revolution. Okay, only the daughters of the nobles and the wealthier members of the third state could study at a convent. So, beside caring for their families, the French women had to cook, fetch water, stand in queues for the bread, lot after the children, etc. So their wages were always lower than the men. So the women from the third state, they had to work in the houses of the second class and the first state people, and their wages were also very low compared to the men. The women in France were disappointed with the Constitution of 1791, and it reduced them to the passive citizen. So, what is mean by passive citizen is they were not given the right to vote. Okay, to express their own views and demands, the women started their own political clubs and newspaper of them, and the Society of Liberationary and Republic Women was the most famous during that time. Okay, so women suffered a lot during the French Revolution, and especially the women belonging from the third state, they suffered a lot, and because of that only they demanded some political right from the government, and they demanded some constitutional change in the favor of women during that time. So the government also, they hearing the proposal of the women during that time, the government made certain changes that we are going to study now. So, the looking at the condition of the women during that time, the government passed certain laws to improve the lives of the women. So, such laws are: number one, the government made new schools and education compulsory for the women. So the government started making new schools and education compulsory for the women. Okay, number two, no more forceful marriage. So no more forceful marriage was stopped by the government during that time. Number three was marriage turned into contract and was registered under civil laws. So marriage now were turned into contracts and were registered. Okay, and number four was divorce were made legal. So divorce was made legal. And number five was women could train for their job. So women, they started the women were now trained by the government for the jobs and became artists, and they also can run the small business in their place. Okay, but the women did not got political right, like right to vote. So they kept on fighting for their right. Okay, and finally in 1946, French women, they got a right to vote. Okay, Cuban government had abolished the slavery, but what happened? They had not passed the law in the constitution. That is the reason why the slavery was again started in France colonies. So during that time, what happened? The French had the colonies in the Caribbean islands, and in Montesquieu, Gondelupa, and Sandimgo, and these are the colonies of the France in the Caribbean region, that is in America. Okay, so from this island only, the France used to get the supply of tobacco, indigo, sugar, coffee, etc. But but this time, in this island, what happened? There was a shortage of labor, and these French people now they are in need of slaves to work on this island. Okay, so now from where they want to, they will bring the slave. Okay, so they used to bring the slaves from Africa. Okay, and mm, they used to buy those slaves from African leaders, and those uh, and from there those slaves were brought, and and they were forced to work on this island. Okay, so there was a type of a trade of slave that was going on during that time, and this trade of slaves started between Europe, Africa, and America. Okay, so from these Europeans, they didn't want to walk on this Caribbean island, and because there were lots of black people, that's why they used to bring the slave from Africa. Okay, and they used to force them to walk in this Caribbean island. Okay, from there they used to get a supply of tobacco, indigo, sugar, coffee, etc. So, and this slave trade between Europe, Africa, and America is known as triangular slave trade. Okay, but later on, this trade of slavery was banned by the National Convention. Okay, and this National Convention passed a new law in 1794 which banned the slavery in the area of France. Okay, but later on, what happened after 10 years, the Napoleon reintroduced this slavery, and ultimately and finally the slavery was abolished in France colonies in 1848. Okay, next is the revolution and everyday life. So in after 1789, what happened? There was many changes that took place in the lives of women, men, and children in France. So one important law that came into effect during that time was the abolition of censorship. According to the censorship, all the written materials that written material and cultural activity could be performed or published only after that has been approved by the censor board or the censor of the king. Okay, so with the abolition of censorship and the declaration of right of man and citizen, freedom of speech, now the freedom of speech and expression became the natural right of the people. Okay, and this led to the growth of newspaper pamphlets and books and printed pictures. So now the people started writing newspaper pamphlets, books, and printed pictures, and the freedom of press given voice to the opinion and the counter opinions. Now the people are free to express their views, and they can write anything they want in the newspaper and the magazines against the government. Okay, and now finally, with the freedom of speech and expression, these two things became the natural right of the people during 1789. Okay, so finally, This long chapter comes to a conclusion when the Napoleon Bonaparte in 1804, the French general, uh, crowned himself as an emperor of France. Okay, so during his reign, he did so many good things to the people, and he brought so many good system in France, as well as the bad. But soon his army came to be viewed everywhere as an invader force. So finally, Napoleon was defeated at a Battle of Waterloo in 1815. But even after his defeat, ideas of Napoleon Bonaparte on liberty and modern laws continued in other parts of Europe. Okay? So the ideas of liberty and democratic rights were the most important legacy of the French Revolution, which spread all over Europe. So the French Revolution and its ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity inspired the whole world to fight against the unjust. Okay, most importantly, it was due to French Revolution only that our freedom fighters also got inspiration and they fought against the British, and finally we are free and safe. So with that note, we have uh, completed this chapter, the French Revolution, and as a home assignment, like always, I'm going to upload in the group. So stay home, stay safe, and have a nice day.